so much for joining me. Sorry about the late start. Hey, Shaylin, good morning. Okay, Jen says we're good on Facebook. Let's try this again, round two. So I was just telling a story in round one before it shorted out. Oh, I am recording, perfect. About how basically my goal with my own personal goal with some of these trainings and what I'm doing inside of my own business is eventually I really want to create a community, whether it'll be a membership or a lifetime access community called the Yana Project, where there will be monthly trainings and a lot of valuable information for the people in the audience. But as I'm getting better at this, I totally see like, let's give it away for free. Let's practice, let's deliver, let's give the value. And if these videos are really great, I can record them and always plug them in later. And my business coach put out a podcast this morning or yesterday. I listened to it this morning. That was all about how to run effective webinars, which is almost kind of like what I'm doing here. This is more of a training and a class, but a webinar, a master class, you know, a 60 to 90-minute class that really solves your client's problems, tells them how it's going to be solved, or a potential client, and then gives you an invitation to purchase. And the services work with the coach, et cetera, et cetera. And by the way, tomorrow, just giving anyone a heads up, we are going to be talking about not doing things alone. And I've got two really fun offers for you all in ways that you can work with me, in ways that you can not have to do this work alone. I'm going to have a couple of my actual clients who are doing this work on live with me, jamming, talking about their experience. It's going to be a really, really fun day. And then I have an offer for everyone that I have never done before. And it is going to be just so cool, so fun, totally in the spirit of not doing things alone, and extraordinarily, extraordinarily affordable. So just putting that out there. So definitely join tomorrow or watch that replay if you are interested in working with me. But anywho, back to the podcast story. So I was listening to my business coach's podcast on how to do classes, webinars, things like this effectively. And basically everything that she said about what coaches do wrong, quote unquote. Cheers, I've been doing it in this process. And of course, for a second, my brain was like, oh my gosh, you're not doing this right. How could you? So on and so forth. But then I changed from sufficiency day one, truly reminded myself of the conversation that I want to have with myself, and really embraced, like, I was like, thank God she put out this right now, because I'm about to run an evaluation on this whole week, on this week in my business, on this process, on what I did and how I delivered the information. And I'm going to teach you how to do these evaluations. I do this for life, love, business, relationships, family things. It's such a great tool for failing forward. And instead of beating myself up, instead of shaming myself, instead of being like, well, I did all the things wrong, I'm like, what an amazing opportunity to learn, to get better. So by the time I plug this into the Yana Project container and it's a membership portal and people are actually paying, like, I would have worked out all of the kinks. And nonetheless, so many of you have reached out to me saying how much value you're getting out of these classes, how so much right is here too. And that is so important when we're doing evaluations, when we're trying something new. This is the first time I've done a 5-day training in my business like this. And I plan on doing them every single month for this group or something similar. Really excited about the one I've got coming up next month. So that being said, I will be your first example of failing with joy and not letting our thoughts stop us from actually trying. So today's whole class is about failing forward and why failure is actually the number one pathway, the best road to your inevitable success. The more you're willing to fail, the quicker and more likely you're going to succeed, and more inevitably you're going to succeed. Before we really get started today, I always like to think of what are some of the things that people don't do? Why are some of the reasons that people are so afraid of failure? Why do we not want to try, right? Why are we so scared of failure? So, number one is that reason. We're just so scared to fail. And we start telling ourselves so many different stories about not even trying, right? The interesting thing, though, is being afraid of failure is actually just being afraid of the emotions that you're going to experience if you fail. And this is why yesterday's class on being able to be present and honor all of your emotions is so important, and why these classes really intertwine. So I was thinking some of the emotions that we have when we experience failure are emotions like discomfort, shame, disappointment, frustration. It could be agony. Like it could be a failure that was really, really meaningful to us, and some of those emotions could really truly paralyze us, right? So this is why the work in being able to honor and be with your emotions is so important when we are looking to increase our capacity for failure, because really what we're increasing our capacity for is the capacity to feel and the ability to experience the range of all of our emotions and be present with them and succeed in experiencing even the negative emotions so that failure doesn't stop us, right? The second reason that I thought that people are afraid to fail, don't want to fail, look at failure as such a bad thing, is because we have failed in the past. And that past memory, which also brings up a variety of emotions, but is also associated with the stories that we tell ourselves in our mind. And so, because we failed in the past, we have decided now that it's inevitable, it's going to happen again, we're going to fail again. We can't do this, we're not good enough, we're never going to succeed, we're never going to be able to do that. I've tried it before and it's just not going to work out. And the interesting thing, when we do that, when we don't try again, when we allow that first failure to stop us, is it actually just those stories themselves. I'm not going to be able to do this. I've tried in the past. I'll never be successful, right? Like thinking about my sobriety journey, there were so many times over a course of 15 years when I tried to get sober. And if for that last time that it actually worked, I kept telling myself those stories from the past, I would not be who I am and where I am today. And when we start telling ourselves those stories, I'm not good enough, I'm never going to succeed, this is going to be so difficult. Like for me, like one of the stories that involves with sobriety is like, you do not know what a big monster addiction is. It is such a huge monster, right? And then I feel like I'm battling this monster before I even actually started to work on the project, before I ever put the drink down. And so I'm here drinking beers thinking, oh my God, this is such a big monster. And yet I'm holding the monster and I'm feeling so disappointed in myself for not trying, but I'm also not enjoying my life while I'm drinking beers, and that holding me back from being vibrant, being here, being able to teach you all, being of service. And it is those stories that bring up these negative emotions before we even start to examine, hey, are they true? Is that really the case? I know I've tried it before, but what am I going to do differently next time? And this is really what we'll get into in terms of our evaluation process, and how to really look at the stories that you're telling yourself and shift that perspective. And I'm going to give you a whole list of thoughts in this class today about thoughts that helped me fail, right? Because they bring up a different energy within us, and it's a different story we're going to tell ourselves about failure. And then another reason why I think so many people, I see this so much, I will be number one example of this too. And I discussed it when I read that post about all or nothing thinking on setting goals for ourselves, right? And instead of encouraging ourselves to take baby steps, to count our successes, to take one step at a time, we go into this pattern of all or nothing. Like I have to do it all or I'm not doing it at all. And this is such a sneaky, interesting way for our brain to make sure that we fail before we even try. So if we have to do it all, subconsciously, we know we're not going to do it all. And that's why it's called all or nothing. We inevitably end up doing nothing. We end up not trying at all, which results in us failing, in us never reaching our goal, in us never getting to our destination. So the way to really combat this is to really start being okay with, hey, I tried it. I tried something. Let me just do something. But then also having a really great evaluation process to be able to learn from that trial and error, right? What is the quote, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? Versus I'm going to try something. I'm going to evaluate. I'm going to get data from it. And then I'll have something to work with for next time. And what am I going to adjust? What am I going to shift? I basically just gave you all the whole process, but I'm going to describe it in length in just a little bit. But before we do that, I want to talk about why failure is so inevitable, because I think this is part of this all or nothing thinking, right? If I kept this drawing up on my board, we think that success is going to be like the top thing where we go from A to Z and it's just going to be a straight line. We got this and we'll figure it out. Where really our journey is so much like that from A to Z. It's a bunch of scribbles. It's about a winding road. Sometimes we're going up, sometimes we're going down. Sometimes we feel like we're going backwards. But all of it, if we learn to evaluate, if we learn to fail forward, if we learn to learn from our failures, that becomes the way to really shorten that gap and to really make your inevitable success come so much quicker. So I had this interesting idea, this interesting thought, and I want to share it with you all. And hopefully it'll change the way that you're looking at goals a little bit, the way that you're looking at your intentions and the way that you're looking at success. So I want to ask you all, what do you think the difference is between a goal and an intention? And I'm just going to pause for a second, really let that sink in. What's the difference between a goal and an intention? If you're watching the live, feel free, drop in the comments what you think your answers are. I'm very curious before I give you mine. And as I was thinking about this, it made me think about the idea of a goal being something that is outside of you, right? A goal is somewhere. Shaylin says goals have actions. Shaylin, you don't think intentions have actions? It's another food for thought. Because I can see myself, intention is a feeling. Ooh, I really like that. And the interesting thing though, and we're going to get to this, is our feelings totally stimulate our actions. So if we feel a certain way, like for example, like the feeling of desire, when you want something, like you want your goal, it stimulates you. Desire is like something we feel like we have to act on, right? If we're desiring partnership, we might get on Bumble. Intention for me is a single word, action, such as growth. Intention for me is a single word, action, such as growth. Jen, tell me more about that. I'm very curious. Shaylin, I will tell you more, right? So our feelings stimulate our action. So if we feel something like desire, especially a desire towards our goals, then we're going to take action towards those goals. So what I was thinking, and Jen, I'm still curious, intention for me is a single word action such as growth. Like you intend to grow. My intention is to grow, and does it have to be single word? Tell me more. If intention is growth, therefore I actually achieve it. I get it. Okay. And Crystal is going to join us via Zoom. Little time for interruption. Okay, cool. And Jen, we're on the same page that intention does not necessarily have to be a single word. Okay, cool. This is all totally going to tie together. I'm so glad we did this all together. So what I was thinking, right? And like desire is such a great feeling to use for this. If you have a goal is usually something that is outside of you, that you haven't yet reached, that you haven't yet figured out, that you don't yet necessarily have. It's not yours. So it is this thing that I want. It is this thing that I'm desiring, whether it's a relationship, whether it's feeling better, whether it's, whatever, a certain amount in your finances for your business, right? Every single month I set a monetary goal, so to say, and a client goal, like how many clients I want to onboard and how much money I want to make in my business, because it's really not all about the money. It's about how many people I'm able to be of service to. But that gives me a measurable goal, something that I don't yet have. I don't yet have these new clients. And then that stimulates desire within me. Okay, cool. If I want these new clients, if I want to meet these money goals, right? Remember from day one, when I was talking about goals, or was it day two, about who do I have to become in the process? Who do I have to be this month? What do I have to produce? What do I have to deliver? What do I have to bring to the table in order for me to achieve these goals, in order for me to draw, to bring these clients into my life, to be of service, right? So a goal is something that's out there. I don't yet have it. An intention is inside of you, right? An intention is something we always say, I intend. What is my intention? So for me, actually, even though the intention is the feeling, I agree with you, Shaylin. I also see where you're coming from, Jen, in this, and it resonates with me in terms of how I'm defining intention. For me, an intention is, what am I going to do? What feelings do I have to have? What thoughts do I have to have? What actions am I going to take in order to reach my goal? And success is the combination when the goal and the intention line up, they meet together in order to create that which you wanted, the intention that you had on how you were going to get there. And then success is actually having it when your goal becomes a part of you, right? Last month, I had a certain amount of client and monetary goals. Last month was a successful month. I met both. And when I met my goals this month, I can say I have succeeded. I have my success. I have the client, I have the money. Right? Yeah, Shaylin, thank you so much. So success is the actual having of, right? The interesting thing is, and I think this is where a lot of us get a little bit stuck when it comes to failure. And when it comes to the intention part, it is so fun for us to set goals, to make vision boards, to think about, oh, what's going to happen when I do have that, to visualize, to see, but we don't usually concentrate on what the road there is going to get like or to look like. We don't think about, what am I intending to do in the process? So a couple of days ago on day 2, creating quality goals, I dropped the success guide that I use for myself, that I send out to my clients if they choose to use it, for setting yearly goals, both in their business and their personal life. And a whole section of that success guide, if you guys want to look into it, is the idea of what are going to be my biggest roadblocks in achieving this goal, and how am I going to overcome every single roadblock. Right. And that is getting real with ourselves. Like, that is actually like looking at this, realizing that success is not linear. Success is going to be this interesting, windy path. And ahead of time, intending how we are going to take the responsibility to overcome that success, or to overcome the pitfalls, right? It's anticipating failure. It is knowing that failure is inevitable. Failure is going to happen, and that's not a problem. Right? I don't have to be scared of failure. I can feel my negative emotions. That's fine. I can hold room for those. We did that yesterday. Sure, I've actually failed in the past, but what stories am I going to tell myself? And we're going to do that today. I'm going to give you some really great thoughts about failing, and realizing that it's never going to be all or nothing, but really success is made up of a lot of small little finite steps and readjustments and pivots. And this is the evaluation technique that I'm going to teach you all today to make up for that. So I always love storytelling. I think stories are really, really great. And I'm going to tell you all a little bit of a story about how I myself think about my coaching business. And a thought that really helps me so much is, this is just like how I created success in the service industry aspect of my career. So I was a server for 10 plus years. I started off as a host. I went from being a host to, in the course of 10 years, getting to a place where, like, even today, I know for a fact in my bones, I have had so much success in this arena that if I wanted to, I could have a top-notch service industry job in Atlanta at a fancy ass, wonderful, amazing, beautiful restaurant and make $400 to $500 a night guaranteed. I know that. I don't want that anymore. I don't pursue it. But I know that if I ever needed to lean into, like, I need some quick money or something, or business or whatnot, if I want that fast action step, I have worked out all of the kinks. I am so sure of myself. I know the restaurant industry in and out. Let's freaking go. You got this. That's success. That's having it. I don't even have to have an actual restaurant job right now. Right. And then I'm in this part of my coaching business 2 years in, where I am still figuring so many things out, y'all. I apply this whole idea of being willing to fail all of the time. Entrepreneurship is no joke. It's not something I was expecting. I just wanted to help people. When I started this thing, I had these dreams, I had these visions, but really how I help myself really understand this whole process and knowing that my success is inevitable is really thinking about objectively the way that it took me to get to the top of the service industry and all of those steps. So this is my story, and I wrote down like all of the various steps. So I'm going to kind of sort of read it to y'all while telling you about it. But like I said, when I was, I think 16 years old, 15 years old, I started as a host. And I remember being a host in a restaurant and just like watching all of the other servers make so much money, or what seemed like so much money when I was 15 or 16, and counting their tips at the end of the night, and like sitting there and daydreaming about becoming a server, right? At a certain point, I think I had to be 18 or have a liquor license. I forget all the details, where I could start serving alcohol. So when I was able to, I had that desire, right? Then I applied to a few jobs, and I got a job at this restaurant called Mellow Mushroom, and began my Mellow Mushroom pizza saga. And I remember like the restaurant I was a host at was a pretty well-off restaurant. So I could see the servers talking about making $100, $200, $300 a night. And then I get to this pizza place and I'm like, yes, I'm going to be a server. It's going to be $150 a night, whatever. And like working lunch shifts and making 25, 30 bucks and like feeling so disappointed. And I remember getting orders wrong. And I remember getting stiffed completely by people in the service industry. I remember fucking up so bad and dropping trays full of drinks on people and the feelings that went along with that, right? I remember losing my owner's trust when one night he asked me to close the restaurant. And like I said, I told you all about my addiction things. And I basically invited a bunch of friends over for free beers at his restaurant. I remember getting that owner's trust back. And he invited me to come back and work for him, and having to like really regroup and tell him what I learned from that with my tail between my legs. I remember just the power dynamics of between other servers and between kitchen and service and between servers and guests, and like just the frustration that came along with all of the dealing with other human beings in that industry. I remember saying, okay, Mellow Mushroom, our time has come. This has been great, but I'm tired of making so little money just slinging pizzas. I want to go to a more fancier restaurant. Now I have the experience. I remember applying to a fancier restaurant, getting the job, and then the owner ended up being like this, like, I don't want to talk too much story, but he was let's just say he manipulated and used people and really used his power and authority to give out sections to possibly women who would entertain him for the evening, or to male employees who might bring him certain substances to use. And like, even though I was making great money, like for what I thought was great, 150, sometimes $200 a night, it always came with like this sleazy owner being like, oh, if you want more, you know what to do. Da, 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 da. I remember the discomfort of that, and it was so icky. Finally, after a year, I was like, I cannot do this. I cannot work for an individual like this. So I remember quitting that job and going back to Mellow Mushroom because it was safe and it was easy. Then I remember, right, that that job taught me a lot of wines though, and learning the wines, which I didn't know. And that was a whole part of it. Then I remember taking a couple years off because I'd graduated college, and I thought, okay, that's it. I'm done with the service industry and going to work in corporate, and absolutely not being able, like I did not fit in. I cannot stand it. Moving back to Atlanta from New York with, again, my tail between my legs, getting a job at a bar, getting management at that bar, being taught how to bartend, which was the next step of my experience, getting a management role, and then not being able to hold space for being a manager, and just like between, like I just wanted to serve tables again instead of making the schedule and being responsible for everyone. I remember getting fired from that job because I gave my kitchen manager alcohol when I was bartending one night, and he happened to get really, really drunk, and that compromised me in my job. I also remember that that was kind of the gateway that opened up the opportunity for me to actually not be tied down to anything in Atlanta and explore moving to Hawaii. I remember getting to Hawaii and getting like what seemed like a creme de la creme service industry job at this fancy hotel, full benefits, all the things. And for 6 to 8 months, it was absolutely wonderful. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm working in the sun 24/7, not really, but like all of these beautiful days, 10 to 4, I'm out here on the pool deck slinging drinks, and I don't get to play or enjoy Maui. And so then I remember switching to nights at that resort. But when I switched to nights at that resort, the tips went down because the daytime servers made more money. Anyways, long story short, actually, there's a couple more steps here that I really want to talk about. After that didn't work out, and that was for, I got an opportunity to run a catering business, which was this next level of service. And then I remembered how difficult catering actually was, and working 10 to 12 hours and getting screwed over by the owners of that catering company, expanding their company, helping it grow, then them seeing, oh, this is what success is possible. And instead of giving me, because I like basically like tripled their revenue, they were like, oh, instead of, and I just took a percentage of what the whole company made. That was our initial agreement. And then once the revenue was tripled, they were like, oh, well, we'll just pay you $20 an hour. Would you like to do that? And I was like, no, I'm making like $50 an hour. Why would I want to do that? And I created all this and you're not losing any money. You're making money. Like, long story short, the catering thing didn't work out. I went back to the service industry. And at this time, I had so much experience. I had so many failures. I knew what to do, what not to do. I knew my wines. I knew that I wanted to work at night. I had such a clear vision. And I knew myself and my skills so well. And I had matured and I had grown up that I was only looking for one type of restaurant, super high-end restaurants where I knew the tips would be $300-400 a night minimum, where I would have to work 20 hours a week, where I would get full benefits, where et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I also had all of this experience and I knew myself so well that I was able to walk into those types of restaurants and interview with such ease and I knew my wines and I knew all of the things, right? So it took me all of this trial and error to be able to get that final last job that I got, where basically I was working at a top tier restaurant. I was making incredible money. I remember one time on Christmas Eve, someone tipped me $800. It was that type of restaurant. Like, here you go. Thank you so much. $1,000 nights, very possible over there, more than just on Christmas Eve. I had a really great, and I commanded the space and I went in there like, I'm ready. I'm a boss. I got this. I started getting parties within just a couple months of being there, which is a big deal over there because you start making way greater money. I started being trusted to close, basically to the point where that restaurant is like, if you ever come back to Maui, we will hire you on the spot. And I did. I took advantage of that. I went back to Georgia, got my life coaching certification. And then I was like, oh, I want to come to Maui for the winter for season. Can I have my job? Yes, we'll create a position for you. I got really great in with the manager, right? Like I took all of the failures of my previous experiences to finally get to a place where now I know that I can recreate that over and over and over and over and over again, no matter where I find myself, no matter what city, no matter what's going on, I can land myself a super high-end, valuable restaurant job serving because of how valuable I am, because of all the lessons that I've learned, because of all of the failures that I had. Every single one of those failures led me to some of the most beautiful things, like moving to Maui, and created those opportunities for me. So failure helps you. If we want to look at failure in a whole different way, that's really helpful. Failure helps you collect data and make adjustments. That's all failure is. Yes, it comes with sensations in our bodies, but we can neutralize those by how we're thinking about failure. If we look at failure as like, oh my God, it's this big monster. I'll never be successful. I'm never going to be good enough. I'm never going to do this. I'll never be able to accomplish this. Then it becomes where we fail ourselves ahead of time, right? Or if we're not expecting failure and we expect this process to just be linear and beautiful and wonderful and okay, or we don't actually look at our own intentions. What are we going to do in the process? How are we going to overcome all of the failures? What do I intend? What am I going to think? What am I going to feel? How am I going to look at failure? Yes, failure can swamp us and overwhelm us. If we don't have a way to move forward, failure can do that to us. But when we are dedicated to a dream, to a goal, like I knew for a fact that there was a way for me to make $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month, working 20 hours a week, full of benefits, living in paradise in Hawaii with only one job. I knew that for a fact. That was what I was dreaming of. That was my dream for so long. I desired it. And I was willing to do all of the things and fail along the way in order to get myself there. Some of those days didn't feel easy when I had to, put my tail between my legs and go apologize to my boss for inviting my friends and handing out free beers and not cleaning up all at the end of the night. That felt like crap. Getting fired felt like crap. but I didn't let it stop me from trying again until I found that perfect place. Until I, right now, really 1000% believe in my bones. Like I've had so much success in that industry, I can do it. And this is the same thing that I tell myself when my coaching business gets tough. Like I remember the first year as a coach, I kept telling myself like, oh girl, you're just a hostess. You're just a hostess looking at all those other servers making a bunch of money. That's okay. Don't worry. You'll get to Mellow Mushroom soon. You'll get to the pizza place. And then when you're at the pizza place, you'll figure that out and you'll learn all of your experiences from there. And then you'll get a job at the nicer, like these are the levels of like, I'm willing to do this in my coaching business because now I want nothing more than to work for myself, to be an entrepreneur and to truly be of service to humanity. Nothing more. And there's nothing that's going to stop me when my eye is on the prize and I'm expecting and knowing that failure is inevitable. And this is available to you too. If you just think about failure as a way to collect data and then make adjustments. And there's a process for this, right? But first, before we learn the evaluation process of how to actually collect that data and make adjustments, we have to look at some thoughts that are really going to help us fail. And I started a list that is true for me, but there's nothing more important than your own thoughts and thoughts that you really truly can believe in your own body. Right before our call today, our class today here, I had a call with one of my clients and she dropped some like amazing thoughts about how she looks at failure, which I'm going to read to her in her own words. So borrow those if you believe them, if you feel them in your body to be true, if you're like, oh yeah, that works. That totally works for me. Borrow my thoughts, but how can you start thinking about failure? And this is really your work and such beautiful work that will help you walk into failure so much more gracefully. How can you start thinking about failure in a way that is going to empower you, in a way that's going to help you? So for me, some of the thoughts that I have is failure is part of the process. It's inevitable. Failure helps me collect data. That's all failure is. I'm neutralizing the pain of it. Like, oh, I got a lesson. It's so cool. I'm able to have more information, something to do with, right? It's like I went out into the world. If I never ran this class at all and it was just an idea, then I wouldn't have data to collect. How many people interacted? Oh, Shaylin said that that was really good. That hit the spot. Do that again. This part people tuned out in. Don't do that again, right? What worked? So for me, I could keep this idea just a dream in my mind, but if I don't go out into the world and just try it, try something, then what am I going to put into my membership? That's the first time I'm going to run something like this? No. Give it to you all for free, give you all this value for free, because for me, the learning experience is worth $1 million to be able to collect this data right now, to see what worked for you all while this was free. What value did you get out of it? And then to apply it. I'm making this so valuable for me, right? It's a process of collecting data to know what to shift. Failure is how I get better. It's another thought that I think a lot about failure. Failure is how I get better, right? Me and my sister just started a podcast. I'll drop the link in the Yana project after this. And I had all the thoughts about, I wanted to start a podcast for a year. This is me holding myself back with my own stories. And I had all the thoughts about tech and figuring out tech until me and my sister launched this project. I wrote a post on it yesterday. Look on my main wall. And it became the easiest, most funnest thing. My story shifted. I'm like, oh, this will be such a fun project with my sister. And I remember one of the thoughts I had was like, oh, if I can't figure out the tech, Vicky will help and whatever, we'll do it together. This is going to be so fun. We can do this. And literally all the tech is so easy, but even though it's pretty easy, I remember having to do something in GarageBand to edit like the fade in and the fade out of the volume. And we did it once, but then I had to do it again. I didn't like the way it sounded after re-listening. And so I still had to look it up yesterday when I was adjusting, or 2 days ago, for our next episode. So it's not like I failed, I didn't remember, but I'm just learning to get better at something that's brand new. And now I know exactly the key codes, and I can just press the letter on my keyboard and I know exactly what to do. So if I ever have to use that tool in GarageBand again, I got this, right? This is how we get better, by doing things that we don't know how to do and failing at them in the process. You'll hear, if you listen to the podcast, listen to the first fade out of the in jingle from our first episode and the trailer versus the third one. The volume adjustment level is much better. And I'm willing to try. I'm not going to go redo the first few episodes. That is what it is. But I listened, I caught it. Now I'm going to get better. Yes, I listened to my own podcast with my sister because I thought it was really good. It kept me entertained. All right. Another thought that I think is, every failure gets me closer to my goal, right? If I'm on this long winding journey and all of these little loop-de-loops are just another little failure along the way, I don't know if it's not so bright. I need new markers. If I'm thinking of it that way, then it's like, oh, yes, Jen, failure is how I set myself up for success. Yeah, drop some of your thoughts if you're listening live. Like, let me know in the chat. Feel free. What are thoughts that help you? Failure helps me, or failure, I did that one already. Every failure gets me closer to my goal. Failure is an opportunity to process stuck emotions. That is a good one, y'all. It is so good. It is so powerful. Every single time I fail and I feel that emotion and it whomps me and I'm like, oh, in my belly, in my gut. And then I sit with it, I'm with it, I'm present with it. I ask that emotion, what story does it have to tell me? What does it want me to know? I have a relationship with that emotion. I move with it, I work out with it, I cry through it, I laugh, I dance, I sing with it. It helps me process that emotion out of my system, get the lesson from that, and then get better at holding space for that type of emotion, so I can do it again and again. Failure helps me unlock my limiting beliefs. That is such a good one, y'all. Every single time I fail, I know that there's a mindset behind it, something that I was thinking that led me to that failure. And if I don't fail, I'll never be able to see, oh, what were those thoughts that created that result? But when and if and how I fail will show me exactly what those thoughts are, if I'm willing to do this next part that I'm going to teach you, which is how to evaluate what you did. Failure is my road to success. Talked about that enough in this class. And the more willing I am to fail, the quicker I will succeed. Which is like, failure just becomes like this like thing where it's like, yep, let's go. Let's go. And also, I'm not superhuman either. There's this place where a lot of resistance comes in, where I'm like, oh, I'm not ready to look at that yet. No. And I'm honest with myself there, right? So sometimes we need a slower, easier journey. Some lessons are harder for us to learn. Some things are hard for us to integrate. So I'm not saying like you need to have successes. You need to make it fun. You need to make the whole process enjoyable. I'm by no means saying like, go set yourself up for constant failure all the time. Definitely not. But also be willing to fail in the process of going to your goals, because it's inevitable. So how are you going to make it fun? That's my question. What is your intention? How are you going to overcome those roadblocks? So creating that intention, and like I said, that's in the success guide. You put your goal down, then you think of all the obstacles that might come up for you reaching your goal. And then what do you intend to do to overcome those obstacles? That's how you can do things preemptively. And then post, right? And this is a process I do for like this workshop, I'm going to run one of these evaluations on it. My business coach, Stacey Bayman, taught me this, so I can't take credit for it. Even though it's very interesting, I found a journal entry when I was younger, where I was doing evaluations. I was like, what worked? What didn't work? What the part that I missed was, what will I do differently next time when I was younger? So it's very, very important. I run evaluations on how my consultations went. I evaluate my own coaching calls. Where could I have shown up better as a coach? I'll evaluate, I'm starting this whole dating thing, right? I'll evaluate, are these speed dates working? Or am I just repeating the same thing, hoping it'll work? How could I have showed up differently? What can I look into? And so the way a post evaluation works, you can evaluate your workouts, you can evaluate the end of your week. I really recommend that one. Super fun. Sunday nights, an evaluation for the last week. And then what do I want to do moving forward? You can evaluate how you spend your time. You can evaluate your friendships. You can evaluate everything, and it'll give you so much clarity and help you actually fail forward rather than failing again and again and not getting different results and not enjoying your failing process. So the evaluation exercise works like this. You're going to ask yourself, and we always start by hyping ourselves up, right? We're going to change from sufficiency. So step one is you ask yourself, what worked about the thing that I'm evaluating? What actually worked? What was great about it? What was fun? What was easy? What did I do really well? And you make a list, bullet point list, paragraph, whatever is best for you. If you like journaling, journal about it. After you get your list of all of the things that worked, which is great because now you know these worked, repeat them, do them again for sure. After you know what worked, you're going to do the next thing, which is what didn't work. And here you're being objective and honest and real with yourself. You're not beating yourself up. You're not shaming yourself. You're not blaming yourself. You're not judging yourself. You're not talking shit to yourself. You were just evaluating as if you're like doing an objective evaluation, a review of your behavior, your actions, your thoughts, your feelings when it came to accomplishing said goal. What didn't work? Again, some bullet points. Well, I had tech issues. Maybe I should hook my computer up to Ethernet. I didn't prepare as much. Maybe I could have made a PowerPoint or slides. I could have invited more people by doing a whole email sequence. I could have required more participation. That seemed like it was really great, right? Or asked for more participation. Like today's I'm doing the evaluation in my head right now just to give you guys some ideas for this little mini course of how this system works. But today when Shaylin and Jen and we were talking about goals and intentions, when I had those interactions, that and gave you that space to think instead of me just sitting here and giving you a lot of information, it's yours now, right? And that's something I really want to include on the next portions of what I teach moving forward. I'm not going to beat myself up that I didn't do it more this time. And it's something I'm going to work towards and figure out and solve for on how I can include into the next rounds. Crystal says, what about not having any expectations at all so that when failure happens, that's okay because you didn't expect anything to happen. So you don't beat yourself up or let yourself down. Gosh, that is such a good one. Crystal, I'm going to get to that question in just a second. We'll end the class off on that. Let me just say the third part of the evaluation process, which is what am I going to do differently? Which is like when you look at your list of what didn't work specifically, don't just leave it at what didn't work. That's not helpful. How are you going to solve for those things that didn't work? How can you brainstorm some ideas? How are we going to create more participation in future classes moving forward? How am I going to utilize my email list to send out some sequence emails to get more people here? How could I have marketed this better to get more interaction, more people, right? And I'm going to actually answer those questions. That is actually my own homework. Once we complete this whole training, this is what I'm going to be doing Friday afternoon. I scheduled this for myself in my business. I'm going to spend an hour to 2 hours just evaluating this whole class and brainstorming and thinking of new ideas to make it better for you all next time. Trust me, there's going to be plenty of next times. I'm so dedicated to this group and I'm so excited to keep it growing and to really bring y'all such valuable information. May's class is all going to be all about energetic sovereignty and taking your power back. And I'm so excited to teach about that one. Side note, let's get back to Crystal's question, right? After you've evaluated, after you've created solutions, then you try again and you actually implement those new solutions. You try the new thing. Don't go doing the old thing that you did that didn't work. It seems redundant, but I have to say it. So Crystal says, what about not having any expectations at all so that when failure happens, that's okay because you didn't expect anything to happen. So you don't beat yourself up or let yourself down. Yeah. So Crystal, this is what I think I talked about this during Goals Day. And Jen says the key to happiness is low expectations. So I think I talked about this in Goals Day, and let me know. I'll stay on for a few minutes after. I totally have time if you guys have time, if this takes a little bit longer to discuss. So Crystal's saying Jen is right. By the way, I'm reading two different sets of comments. One's on Zoom, one is on Facebook. I'm going to totally disagree with you both. I don't think the key to happiness is low expectations. I think we lower our expectations when we're afraid, when we're protecting ourselves from failure. It's kind of what is in Crystal's question. What about not having any expectations at all so that when failure happens, that's okay? When failure happens, let's be honest, that is not okay. None of us are like, oh, I want to live my life for failure. I want to keep failing. It's not a problem at all. I think that's a little bit of a thought error. And that's why we want to, when we believe that failure is okay, it's fine, it's not a problem at all, in the sense of like we're just expecting to fail. We don't want to have any expectations that we're going to succeed. Jen says, ooh, juicy, Yana. I love it. Right? Yes, low expectations will keep us safe. That's what Jen is saying now. Right? So then we stay in that comfort zone, in that safety zone. And we lower our dreams. We lower that what we believe we're capable of. We don't want to do the work. We don't want to do the evaluations. Failure is not okay with me. I don't want to fail. I understand that it's inevitable. I understand that it's part of the process. I'm ready to experience failure. I'm willing to continue setting goals for myself. I'm not going to throw my dreams out the window and not have expectations for myself, for my intentions, for the way I'm going to show up, for what I believe is possible for me in my life, just because I'm failing, because I failed. Right? I mean, yeah, if you want to live a life where you don't expect anything and so anything comes your way and it's fine and wherever life takes you, that's cool with me. It's not a problem. I'm not here to try to convince or tell anyone to live the life of their dreams. If you want life to just happen to you, then yes, have low expectations. Let it all go. Go with the flow. But what I think that magic, juicy, awesome, amazing spot is where we actually have high expectations, where we actually set goals where we actually look at what is it that I'm dreaming of, that I want in life? How do I create the life that I really know that I'm capable of achieving, deserve? And then we have very low expectations on how we're going to get there. So I am extraordinarily attached to my results. I'm willing to try a million different things in order to get my results. I'm willing to feel the failure of the ups and downs to get there. What I'm not attached to is it has to be this one specific way. I'm not attached to growing my business through only classes like this. I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to post on social media. I'm willing to go to networking events. I'm willing to do whatever it takes in order for my business to be a skyrocketing success, just like my service industry career was. I'm willing to go on 100 shitty dates, and I'm getting through them quite quick with this speed dating thing, y'all. 200, 300, how many ever it takes, in order to meet the partner that I know I can have an extraordinarily beautiful, conscious connection with, where we're on the same page, where we've got each other's backs, where we possibly are working together, even have the same passion, mission oriented work and lifestyle. And we both have goals of traveling. And I'm not going to settle for someone who's just willing to live, tied down to a 9 to 5. If that's where they're at now, maybe I'm willing to consider it. But I'm not going to say, oh, it meets all the other boxes. That's cool. I'm willing to go speed dating. I'm willing to go normal dating. I'm willing to use a matchmaker. I'm willing to use the apps. The how is what I'm not attached to. How am I going to meet my partner is not what I'm attached to. That's where I release. That's where I allow the universe, to God, source, whatever you want to call it, to come play and help me out. But what I am attached to is the result. And I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to get that result. So have expectations, but understand failure happens. So embrace that. Look at what worked and what didn't by evaluation, but do not allow failure to rent space in your head, but only to learn from it and be better and getting for next time, and be better for next time. Yeah. And getting for next. Yeah. 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 You got it. You got the whole class. That's it. Right there. Right? Don't throw your goals away just because it's hard. Boom, she says. Yes, Crystal. That's it. Right? Don't throw your goals away just because it's hard. Learn how to do hard really, really well, so that your goals become inevitably yours, that they become inevitably something you will succeed at. That's that whole thing. And then Crystal says, once you learn how to hard, then it gets easier. I love this so much. So my client today, she had these thoughts about failure. She's doing some things that are kind of hard right now while enjoying, and she just had really great wins, successes, and now she wants to stretch herself to this next level of her capacity, right? She's setting new goals for herself. That's why she's doing the hard, self-induced hard. It's the best kind of hard. So much better than like having to learn the hard lessons when you don't want to learn them, versus like, I'm ready, I'm going through it. So my client said today, everything I do from here on out, I cannot get wrong. Y'all hear how powerful that is? Everything I do, I cannot get wrong. Because once you learn how to hard, it gets easier. So true, right? Everything I do from here on out, I cannot get wrong, because I know that every single failure is going to be the road to my success. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to adjust. I know how to process my emotions. This is how you create long-lasting change. 1000%. And then she said this to me. She said, the only way I lose is if I don't try. Huge, y'all. Go for it. Try, adjust, be nice to yourself, be gentle, be kind, hold space for yourself. Learn to fail forward. And I promise you, these 4 steps will make change inevitable. Really, it's 3 steps. I think the quality goals is like a really nice bonus, but this is why the document that I created, this guide for this whole program, is called the 3 essential steps to creating lasting change. Change from sufficiency, honor your emotions, fail forward. You do those 3 things, you master those 3 things, you will have the life of your dreams. Full of joy, full of happiness, full of excitement, and full of actual tangible results, from your dream job to your dream partners, to relationships that you absolutely love, to friendships, to travel, to all of the other things. That's how you get it. And in the process, there might be some times that are a little bit difficult. But once you learn how to hard, it gets so much easier. We're putting that on a Facebook post, Crystal. I love it. Okay, my friends. Any other last minute questions, interactions? We're a little bit over. I want to be respectful of everyone's time, but I'm here. And Crystal says, thank you so much. You're so very welcome. I said those names quite a few times today. Crystal and Jen are going to be joining me tomorrow on this live, and we're going to jam about all the things. It is going to be so much fun. I'm so grateful for everyone tuning in, watching the replays. Now go fail forward. All right. I love y'all. Have a beautiful day, everybody.